Now, this just got very interesting for the Minnesota Wild as Bill Guerin and the team, their offseason rumors are swirling, and with John Hynes looking to get some talent to help bolster the roster, one name has been brought to light from a recent Athletic article from the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. We got to dive into that, plus a look at Zeev Boyum and exactly what the Wild need to do with their young guys coming up soon, including one Russian name and where he slots into the lineup. There's a lot of questions in terms of the lineup and the talent coming into this team. We're going to break it all down coming up on this episode of Wild Digest. But guys, you guys have been supporting like crazy, showing a ton of love to the channel, but still over 90% of you are not subscribed. We have an incredible goal of 500 subscribers by the end of this week. We're only about 150 away as of the recording of this video, and if even like 10% of you watching these videos hit the subscribe button, we'd be so close to it. So thank you so much for being here. Mark, let's dive into one big thing we got to talk about with the Wild. And again, this is inspired from the Athletic article from Michael Russo, Joe Smith. It'll be linked down below, but there is a big thing right now with the Wild, and that's what they're going to do with their young guys to make some room. And look, we'll start with Zeev Boyum. There's a couple names we got to get into in a bit. Looking at the Wild's decor for the next few years, it's like, oh, where is it here? Here it is. Like, there's a bunch of guys signed. The only guy definitely leaving is John Merrill, and even Declan Chisholm is an RFA, but you got Boyum, you got Faber, you got Bogosian, Middleton, Brodin, and Spurgeon. And among those guys, I feel like Boyum gets the spot right away, and I feel like if you're the Wild, you absolutely have to do everything you can to make sure he gets time next year. What are your thoughts on how they can guarantee that their young guy comes in and makes an impact right away?
I mean, the big thing is, listen, we could see him go right down to Merrill's position on that third line left deep, but I don't think that really suits Boyum. We've seen him play with Bogosian. There was a bit of hiccups. It's an NCAA kid being thrown straight into the Stanley Cup playoffs this year, but I do think Boyum has to immediately make it into this lineup. I mean, he's one of the top prospects around the league, the top prospect debatably on the Minnesota Wild. His future's so good, and I think a top four role, yes, you're going to have some hiccups throughout the year. Yes, there's going to be a tiny bit of growing pains, but I think you need to immediately put him in as a power play quarterback. We've seen him get on that first unit immediately in the playoffs. So I would not be shocked, Josh, if they went out and found somewhere in that top four to fit Boyum going into next season.
Yeah, he's the guy I'm honestly the least worried about making room for, because the fact that the Wild threw him in on the PP1 right at the start of the play, like, he was given a ton to put on his shoulders right away. And yeah, I mean, there was some struggles being the guy he is, you know, a 19-year-old, one of like the best players in college hockey, coming in and doing that is tough, but I see no problems with him. There is another guy on defense, though, Mark, we got to talk about, and that is David Jiricek. And there was a great point brought up in that article about Jiricek, and they basically said, look, he lacerated his spleen, but he's likely to work on his skating a lot this summer. But look, we gave up a ton for Jiricek. The draft capital, the players too. You gotta find a spot for him. And he's only played 6 NHL games this season, then sat for a lengthy stretch as insurance with the Wild. When it comes to David Jiricek, like, yeah, he played 27 games in Iowa. It wasn't super amazing with his time there. Again, a lacerated spleen. There's been some injury troubles. I don't want to say he looks like the odd man out, because I do think after next year, I mean, first of all, you can move off of Bogosian if you need to. He's an expiring deal this year. If you want to make room on the right side, you know, another year with Jiricek down in Iowa could work, but honestly, he's one of those guys that I think needs those NHL reps soon. I mean, when it comes to him and this sort of blocked up decor for this next year, he's someone that I'm slightly worried about getting the run that he needs to really develop into what we traded for, you know?
And I think he will start in the AHL just to get back into action. We've seen him go out with the injury. Maybe he needs to get up the game speed again. But would you be shocked, really, if we've seen Bogosian come in as the seventh D? You don't really have to move him. We know the cap space opening up. If they can make it work, Bogosian, it would be awesome as a seventh defenseman. Certain matchups, you want a bigger body, a more physical guy with the veteran leadership to come into the lineup. But I think by the end of the season, going into the playoffs, we're going to see Jiricek as a full-time guy on this team. And if we don't listen, you have team control with this guy. You can work ways to get him in and out of the lineup throughout the season. But it would not shock me by years end that Jiricek is a staple somewhere on this team. But it does get confusing with, do you play him with a rookie Boyum, or do you use him on this third pairing where he's probably not best suited for?
It's tough. And look, I'm okay with Bogosian being the 7D. My problem is I don't know if I would love having Jiricek be kind of a rotation defenseman versus getting a bunch of run in Iowa. So there's a lot of things we can talk about there. And I need to hear your guys' thoughts on this down below. Are you sold on Jiricek? I think he can still be amazing. Still a lot to be shown. I think a full off season, though, after that injury is going to show us a lot. One final quick note, though, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, is our boy Danila Yurov, because I think for him right away, To me, there is no doubt this guy's a middle six forward right away. I mean, you could argue right there on that second line if you want to. 25 points in 46 games in the KHL this year. Of course, a lot better last year with 49 points in 62 games. He's ready to get out of there. I mean, he is out of there. His contract's ended, and looking at the team lined up for next year, yeah, there might be some moves this offseason. We'll talk about one here in this video and even some other guys that were named. But to me, Mark, Danila Yurov is a guy that's going to come in. I have zero qualms about him getting a spot right away in the middle six, and I don't think the Wild are worried about it either. I think he's one of these guys that's going to come up, shock everyone around the league that's not a Wild fan, and just make an impact right away.
I mean, yes, he's going to immediately go into this middle six, but kind of throwing it back to you, would you be shocked with how electric this kid is if he somehow fought his way through the preseason, going into with camp and made himself a top six option immediately with his scoring output, with how well he is? I mean, he's a bit mature for his age. We see a lot of guys 19 make mistakes around the league. But with Yurov coming in, Josh, I would not be shocked if he found himself immediately in the top six.
Well, the beautiful thing about the second line is that it's both top six and middle six, and you can just say whatever you want depending on the player, So, like, I think so, though. I know what you mean in the sense that, like, he can be relied upon to go out there in later games. Sometimes a team's third line is the more reliable line, where the second line has the bigger scoring punch, right? But yeah, you're absolutely right. I would love to see him with a talent like Rossi. That's a whole other situation that we'll probably talk a lot about in the future. But let us know your thoughts on Yurov, all these guys down below, as we got to dive into this most recent name that has been brought up. And look, this also comes from the Athletic article, but it's not the only place. Like, there's no doubt that the Wild would be nicely suited with some center depth down the middle, right? We got Eriksson Ek. There are some question marks about Rossi. I know how you guys feel. I want to keep him around, but at the end of the day, it looks like the organization might want to trade him, whatever. But then it's Freddie Gaudreau and like Brendan Gaunson. It's like you wonder what the center solution is longer term. And getting another center is definitely an option for the Minnesota Wild. It's never bad to get some good center depth. And there's one name that's been thrown around the league, Mark, and it's Sam Bennett of the Florida Panthers. And just a quote from this Athletic article from Russo and Smith saying, look, the focus should be providing a boost offensively, and there's some options out there with Bennett, Besser, and Nelson I talked about in the last video. And then, of course, if they're not in the Marner sweepstakes, that might be a video in and of itself. That would be nuts. But focusing on Bennett, because I think it's maybe a more realistic option. Look, Mark, a Selke finalist. This guy knows how to play defense. He knows how to be a 25-goal scorer, offensive punch, winner in the playoffs, shows up when it matters, and is solid defensively. Sounds a lot like Joel Eriksson Ek in some ways. Like, what do you think about his fit in this lineup? I still think someone like a Besser would be a better fit for this team. Bennett would probably be cheaper. Again, his point total start his career not that high. Do you see him as a good fit for the Wild despite what he might demand in free agency?
I mean, the big thing with Bennett is he brings the Stanley Cup prodigy. We see him in the Stanley Cups right now with the Florida Panthers. Might go back-to-back. Who really knows? But the big thing with Bennett is we don't know how much he's committed to staying with the Florida Panthers. If they go to win another Stanley Cup, I don't know if he's going to walk from a team that just won back-to-back. But Bennett coming in, if you move Rossi, yes, go get a center. Prioritize this over a winger. But right now, I agree. Going out to get a guy like Besser, Ehlers, even Mitch Marner, a winger that can come in with an offensive output, I think would be a big add. But Bennett would not be a bad one, Josh. I mean, two lines of basically Joel Eriksson Ek down the middle is very intriguing as a Wild fan.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it depends on how much he wants, and I'm not convinced he's going to leave Florida, but his name is showing up everywhere. Like, every single team's free agent target, it includes Sam Bennett, because, like, a guy like him is not often like readily available as a UFA with not too much extension talk on the table. Like, again, he provides so much to your team. And yeah, during the regular season, you look at the numbers and you're like, well, geez, I wish Sam Bennett could have scored a few more goals for me, or maybe had more than his career high 51 points this year. That a career high of 51 points for a 28, almost 29-year-old is not that high. But again, the defensive pedigree that he brings, looking at his performance in the playoffs there the last 3 years, 15 points in 20 games, 14 points in 19, 5 points in 5 games as of the recording of this video this year. There's a lot to love about Sam Bennett, so leave your thoughts down below. I'm not sold, like you said, Mark. Like, a center is great if you don't bring back Rossi. I still think, look, that's its own thing. It's its own issue we'll discuss in another video. Center depth is never a bad thing, but considering he might demand $7-8 million, I don't know if you're willing to pay that kind of money with what the Wild have and how much flexibility we want to keep for Kaprizov. So let us know down below. Not sold on this one, but that'll do it for this episode of Wild Digest. And if you enjoyed, hey, you're still around here, just double check that you haven't hit that subscribe button already, because we're here almost every single day with the latest Wild news, and I know you don't want to miss it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.